Welcome back to the show, Cherries fans, and thank you for joining us. Before we get going, please hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button. It really helps this channel to grow. Now, of course, we face Wolverhampton Wanderers tomorrow, a side managed by Gary O'Neill. There's been a lot of criticism in the past, though, about Gary O'Neill and his style. There's a lot of it from the Bournemouth fans. Um, he's been compared to clowns and also PE teachers, and it probably even worse, unfortunately. What I wanted to do, though, was find out a little bit more from a Wolves fan, but a Wolves fan who has heard the opinions of a fan who does feel that way. Football is all about opinions, and that's what we're doing. So it is a pleasure to welcome on from Always Wolves, Dave. Welcome to the show, Dave. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, great. Thanks for inviting me on. Great to be here.
Not a problem at all. And thank you so much for joining us. And hope yourself, Magic, and the Wolves faithful over at Always Wolves are very well. So, one thing I wanted to touch on firstly was, of course, Gary O'Neill. And you've spoken to a lot of fans in the past who have been.
You got one in particularly in mind?
Yeah, you can mention it. Go for it.
You're on about Kirk.
Yeah, yeah. So of course you spoke to Kirk, and to be honest, very, very valid points that he makes with regards to Gary O'Neill. And I think we're completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm a big, big Gary O'Neill fan. Kirk, not so much. But from what you first was told, how do you think Gary O'Neill's adapted to the role at Wolves? Because he only had 5 days before the season kicked off, if I'm correct.
Uh, well, I think it was a difficult start. He came in with, I think it was 3 or 4 days before the start of the season. We had Man United first game. We played pretty well in that game, and the VAR decision. I mean, it's been all about VAR this year. To be fair, difficult start, difficult fixtures. 2-0 up against Ipswich in the League Cup away at Portman Road. Collapsed, and we collapsed a few times. And, obviously, a lot of the Wolves fan base were very uninspired by the appointment, referring to him as a PE teacher. Kirk, when I did the interview with him, he was open and honest about his feelings, but he wasn't a fan, which didn't help, I suppose, because a lot of that's had like 12 or 13,000 views. So there's a lot of people took an interest in, obviously, a Bournemouth fan's perspective, and obviously Kirk's was, from what all accounts, different to yours. He said Gary had no identity, not a lot of personality, really, tactical and all that sort of jazz, and anyone would have kept Bournemouth up that year, basically. And that's fair. That's a fair comment, and that's his views. Obviously, that didn't exactly raise the expectations any further. It wasn't exactly a glamorous appointment for Wolves, and there was a lot of real concern and worry, and obviously with the stuff that happened with Julian Lopetegui, and the calamity that was this summer, really, for Wolves. A lot of people had Wolves as bang on to go down. The next game after the Ipswich game, we played Manchester City at home. Tactical masterclass, won the game. He goes on Monday Night Football on, excuse me, Sky. Gives real insightful real in depth on training ground footage. I don't know if you saw that video.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
and it was really insightful, and you got to learn a little bit more about Gary, the man and the person, and what he's about. And from that point on, it's just pretty much gone in one direction. Very successful season. We've had some great results. Beating Tottenham home and away, Chelsea home and away. Should have beaten Man United twice. Lost to Arsenal. And, we were having a good run in the FA Cup, but thin squad, injuries hit. as hard as we had a lot of injuries in the forward areas. Virtually 80% of our forward line had been taken out.
Yeah.
Players like Neto and Cunha and Wang and, Bellegarde as well. And so the FA Cup was a bit of a disaster, really, the quarter-final. We didn't play well. Coventry, you saw what they were like against United. They just had a go.
Yeah.
And we had no... Had we have had our main forwards on the pitch that could drive the ball, I don't think they would have stepped forward so far as there was, because we didn't think we've got our noses in front, and then excuse me, very naively lost the game even after getting in front. And to be honest, that was a real low point. But the team's still fighting, even though we've been struggling for players. We played against Arsenal at the weekend. We got a 15-year-old kid on the bench, got academy starting. We got Lamina, who comes on playing as a number 9, and he's a midfielder. So, but managed to put in a good performance, and we're unlucky in the end to lose 2-0. Yeah, Arsenal deserved to win, but we played actually quite well. And it'll be really interesting to see what the team will be like against Bournemouth on Wednesday night, because Semedo and Ryan Aït-Nouri were also out for Arsenal, and they're our wing backs, and they've been really, really important to us. So I think Ryan might be back, potentially start against Bournemouth. Semedo, he's just played so many games, it's just caught up with him. We'll see if he's available or not. Craig Dawson at the back, big experience, a lot of experience. He's got a groin injury and had to have an operation. So literally riddled with so many injuries.
Yeah.
But we've got more, we got more points on the board than the whole of last year. Currently 11th. Could have been pushing Europe. We've lost about 8 points on stupid VAR decisions as well, so we could even be higher.
Yeah.
If you take all that into account, with the resources that Gary's had, with the time that he's had, what a job, really.
I think he's done a fantastic job. And in fact, I was counting up the number of points, and I was counting it up as 11 points.
Yeah,
That really
it could be. I mean, 8, being conservative, really.
Yeah.
8 definite
Yeah.
points, which would have put us on 51 points at the moment. But the thing is, we've had on VAR, look at Everton with their 8-point deduction and Forest with their 4. We've kind of lost 8 points on VAR, and I know other teams have had VAR decisions as well and stuff like that. So you take into context, but equally the teams that have got we didn't get the 8 points, they've got those points that we should have had, so they've had points in the back. It always seems to be the big six that do tend to get the so-called big six do tend to get the best of the decisions, doesn't it, when it comes down to it? And I think that's a frustration. And VAR for fans, match-going fans in the stadium, when you're celebrating or there's something happening, you don't know what's going on, and it's frustrating. I know you felt for the Coventry fans, didn't you, the weekend?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
And it's literally a toenail offside. But where did they draw the line? When do they say that he touched the ball? A split second later, he's onside. So I don't know. We got semi-automatic offsides coming in next year, which I think is probably a positive thing. Was used well in the World Cup, but it's the match day fans. Whether you support Bournemouth, whether you support Wolves, or whoever you support, it's not a great experience at the moment, because you're just standing around celebrating, or you don't want to celebrate, or there's something going on and you don't know what the VAR checks for. If you're watching it on the telly, you got a better idea. So that's got to be sorted for match-going fans, I think.
Oh, most definitely. And to be honest, I've done plenty of videos about VAR referees and all sorts recently. So yeah, I can fully reason with you on that. And of course, we recently had one that should have been a penalty by the letter of the law, and it wasn't given. And we was playing Manchester United
Okay,
last minute.
surprise.
Yeah.
How you think, but Bournemouth have been having under Iriola. You've had a really worrying start.
Mm.
I think he was unreal. The owners were very, very patient with him, but the results hadn't turned. He was getting close. I think the fans were probably would have been getting frustrated at the time. But boy,
Mhm.
what a job he's done since you started winning, and Bournemouth have been amazing after that terrible start. And you've just got the table, and as we look at it, we're literally 1 point between the two sides now.
Well, it's funny actually you say about Iriola because, to be honest, Gary O'Neill, kept us up against all the odds. Of course, we was beaten 9-0. The best result actually happened against yourselves at Dean
0-0.
Court. The 0-0. It was something to build upon, and we from that Liverpool game all the way to the Southampton game, every other team in the Premier League had been beaten, but our fans decided to call him a clown, PE teacher, and to be honest, it's a small minority.
Probably where
Small,
some of the Wolves fans got the PE teacher thing from.
yeah. But I think Iriola was afforded a lot more time. Now I think if we was beaten by Burnley, or even if we only got a point against Burnley, Bill Foley was at that match, and I think, and this is my heart of hearts, that he was ready to pull the trigger. But coming back to Gary O'Neill, and of course, you had that show, and I want to refer back to it because it's an opinion, and everybody's entitled to opinions. And actually, it's quite interesting to see how contrasting Gary O'Neill is. You know, um, do you feel that Gary O'Neill has an identity at Wolves? Because I
I
always
yeah,
thought that he has.
I really do, yeah, because he's explained his identity. You
Mhm.
you look at Popsicle over at Spurs. He
Yep.
plays the high line. He doesn't change for anything. He does his interviews and then looks at the camera. It's like how he goes.
Mhm.
Um, and there's certain managers that will stick to an identity and a formation and a way of playing, and that's
Yep.
one way of doing it. And they will stick to that regardless, and they won't change. And sometimes that can be a frustration for fans because you need a plan B and a plan C or whatever. Gary O'Neill's identity is a chameleon. He
Mhm.
adapts to the opposition. He he wants to play in this certain way, probably with a back four,
Yep.
and then we switch to a back five. And certain teams he played, but then he looks at the other teams and he might drop it down and how we play to analyse what he expects from the opposition, and it served us well this year. The identity that he's got is adaptation. There is a style of play that they play, but they adapt to the opposition. And what Gary O'Neill has got, and is what he's the biggest achievement for me that he's got, is turned a very vitriolic and divided fan base
Mhm.
into a united fan base. He's got the players playing for him. They're clearly playing for him. The fans are back on side. If you go in tomorrow, the atmosphere has been so much better. Um, I kind of believe in what they're doing, what he's doing, and he's sort of like, whereas Bruno Large and to an extent Lopetegui were very sort of standoffish, and Bruno Large dismantled really the work that Nuno had done. Gary O'Neill, brick by brick, has rebuilt um, the bond between the club, the players, and the fans. And the big thing for us this season, because we've obviously had all the FFP profit and sustainability issues that we've had to get through, and Forest and Everton have clearly fallen foul on that.
Mhm.
We're coming through to the other side of that now, so we'll have about £20 million, depending, clear water plus what we bring in sales. So Gary O'Neill hopefully will be backed, bringing in the players that he wants, keeping the players he doesn't, and we need a deeper squad, and that's the big test now for Wolves fans. It's not necessarily with Gary; it's with the ownership
Yep.
to support him. And Gary O'Neill needs a new contract as well. I think he's on a 3-year contract, but he's probably one of the lowest paid
Mhm.
managers. I think he's earned a new deal with Wolves, and then I think we have got we have got some really talented players, and we've done really really well, and we could have got to Europe from VAR and injuries. We could have easily got Europe this year, but in some ways he's now got the opportunity to sort of like really have a proper pre-season, work with Matt Hobbs and the board to strengthen the squad, and I think we could be even stronger for it next year.
One thing that I have always thought as well, and this was something that I was questioned upon earlier on, is whether or not, if Gary O'Neill had stayed at AFC Bournemouth, whether or not we would be in a better position than we are now. And it's a very, very interesting one because I feel that the squad, and this is no disrespect, but because of the amount of player sales that went out of Wolves, I feel at this point in time, probably not straight away at the start of the season, but at this point in time, the Bournemouth squad is probably a little bit stronger in depth.
Definitely. I mean, Gary O'Neill's referred to it in his press conference today. He's like, they bought a few players when he was there, but then someone broke his ankle and he didn't really get the benefit. And they've
Yeah.
used probably the fifth highest spending Premier League club over the last couple of seasons.
Mhm.
That does, however, bring you closer to having to cut your cloth a little bit this summer, I think.
Mhm.
There are going to be teams that are going to be facing that profit and sustainability wall.
Yeah.
Villa being one, they might get Champions League to help them out. Newcastle, all the money in the world that they've got, they still can only spend within the things. Chelsea, but Wolves are coming through that. But there's other teams that is going to be hit with it a little bit this season. I don't really know exactly the finances at Bournemouth, but from what I understand, over the last couple of years, the owners have invested heavily.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, now you're coming into the third year, how that's going to affect your summer window. You probably know better than me.
Well, supposedly we have made a profit of 44 million, but we'll have to see how that's all made up. To be
If you
honest,
have, and you brought in all them players, that's fantastic.
I know, it's incredible, really. But I'm not a finance man. I'm hoping that at some point we'll get Kieran Maguire on and find out exactly what it all means. But I honestly think, with the players that we have at our disposal, that Gary O'Neill possibly could have put us in a better position than we are at the moment. And that's no disrespect to Andoni Iraola, because the football we are watching is exciting. It's nice. It's beautiful football. But what Gary plays is very effective. And I was lucky enough to meet him. And I echo exactly what you said there, Dave, is he's a bit of what I would call a scenario manager. If Bournemouth do this, Wolves do this. And he can adapt, and change the style of that team to meet, because I guess in the situation that he is in at Wolves, because there isn't the strength in depth and he's got a lot of injuries, he has to do that to
A
get the
lot of
result.
injuries all in one area of the pitch as well.
Yeah.
That's been, all in those attacking thirds. When we had Neto rampaging, I mean, he could literally destroy someone on his own. He's just unbelievable when he's fully fit and he's on it. He's incredible. But
Mhm.
like Pedro Neto is a luxury because we've had him for 5 years and we've probably played half. He's been available for selection probably half of that time because of all of his injuries, and it's such a shame because he is such a talented player. You know, Wang went out to the Asia Trophy
Mhm.
when he was out. He comes back, we get injuries, then he gets injured. Kuna gets injured. Bellegarde suddenly does his knee out of nowhere. It's like you can't, you just can't license for so many being out, and it's really affected us. So, like Gary's had to, and he talked about it in his press conference today. He's had to do even more work than he
Yeah.
would normally do preparing for games because he's having to work out how he can use this. He had 10 outfield players available for
Mhm.
Arsenal, how he can use those players, and he's having to play players out of position, really,
Yeah.
and still getting a tune out of them. And that's a sign to his man management and the players buying into him. So it's not like we've been folding or giving the ghost up because we're safe or we got the flip flops on. But I said at the weekend, the Bournemouth game really for us is a much more important game because there's a couple of £1 million at
Yeah.
stake and for position. So if we can finish 11th rather
Mhm.
than 13th. That could be £4 million that we could, that'll buy Tommy Doyle in the summer, who, by the way, has
Mhm.
been on loan and been fantastic for us. We sold Mateus Nunes to Manchester City, and all he's done is get wood burns on his bum and broke his finger. Really, since he's been there. When we've
Mhm.
had Tommy Doyle the other way, and he's 4.3 million,
Yeah.
which will make permanent in the summer, and he's a real talent, Tommy Doyle, as well.
One thing I do want to ask you as well, Dave, before I let you go, is of course there is this talk at the moment about Gary O'Neill.
Absolute
Supposedly,
rubbish.
he's
Absolute rubbish. He's
Mhm.
even stated that today,
Yeah.
that he's not spoke to anyone or anything like that. This
Mhm.
is, he said it's an honour to be linked with a great club and everything. He's focused
Yeah.
100% on Wolves. He's stated to some of the journalists who interviewed him that he's not spoken to anyone.
Mhm.
Um, and he's been linked with blooming Inter Milan as well, and England job and all sorts of this. It's like every other week, it's like, oh, you're the next England manager. And it's like, it's great that he is being linked. Personally,
Mhm.
um, I don't see that Gary O'Neill jumping into another job he's a young manager. He needs to
Yeah.
do it because he literally he was at Bournemouth, he knew the players, but he didn't
Mhm.
have any pre-season to do his own thing. He just had to go with what he got and got him thinking. Then he got sacked. And then Wolves have come in for him. He's not had a pre-season again, 3 days. He's had to learn and do that with the players and got him to where he is. Is he gonna really like jump up sticks and go to another club and start and do it again for the third year? He'll start to get a bit of a reputation as a tart for going around all these different clubs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I laugh and joke, but like
Mm.
I think he's a very clever manager. Graham Potter went to
Yes.
Chelsea, and look what happened to him. I don't think he's been back in a job since. Julian Lopetegui thought he was bigger than us. Waiting for United or whatever, and he's still sitting twiddling his thumbs, waiting for someone to come in. Um, People have said, "Oh, he'll go to West Ham." Why would he go to West Ham? They don't even like the manager that they've got, who's
Mm.
won them a trophy, got them to the quarterfinals of another one, got them in, competing for Europe again, and they can't stand him. And I'm just like that. Why would you go there? West Ham, yeah, okay, they're a little bit higher up, but like I think really, as long as like Wolves do back him and improve his contract, he can really make a name for himself with Wolves
Yeah.
over a 2 or 3 period. And I think sitting in post for 2 or 3 years with us and helping us develop with the relationship that he's got with the players and the sporting director is surely only going to his stock's only going to rise even higher. And I know, like, if someone says, "Oh, Liverpool come calling," it's hard to turn it down, I guess, because it's Liverpool. But I can't realistically think why Liverpool would go for a Gary O'Neill, as good as he's been,
Mhm.
when he's not got really. He's 2 years into his managerial experience. He's had no experience of any European football. He's not won a trophy or anything like that. And it would be a big risk for them to do them, and it'd be a big risk for him as well. And Graham Potter's a typical
Mhm.
example for what he did at Brighton. Went to Chelsea and it just bombed. So he has to. You have to be. He has to be very. You have to be careful with what you do. But I
Yeah.
just think it's just one of them things. Some guy put out something that he's had an interview, and
Mm.
it's like, why would he be having an interview for the Liverpool job? Like 6 games out from the end of the season, and the Wolves ain't gonna let him. Why would he even do that? Wouldn't happen, would it? It's just, I just think it's one of those nice little clickbait things that's got people talking. But
Yeah.
I was a bit sus with it myself, and Gary O'Neill's, and maybe people would say, yeah, he would say no, but I just don't think it's a great career move at this point in time, jumping ship from Wolves when he's still a very, very rookie manager. I mean, he said in his press conference today before the Bournemouth job, the
Mhm.
only team he'd managed was his boys under nines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, so. he's a astute guy. He thinks about things. He would. I'll be surprised if he moves from Wolves unless they're not going to back him, and I can't see that because for all the world there'll be a riot if they don't, you know, do something with building the squad for this year because we've got a lot of potential if they do it right, and I believe they will.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Dave. And I think, if he was to actually go to another club, a club that maybe be seen as a step up, it could well backfire. And I think he's got a fantastic job there at Wolves. I don't think he's hit the lottery twice. I think,
I mean,
he's
how,
done
how, how long
hard work.
was Eddie Howe at Bournemouth?
Well, through two separate stints. So he joined back in 2008 and then all the way until COVID hit. So there was a
Didn't do
period
him
of
any harm, did it?
no, it didn't. It didn't. And I think,
He built his reputation there at Bournemouth.
yeah, exactly. He was involved in every single promotion. We did get to the playoffs under Lee Bradbury, but at the same time, Eddie Howe molded this team to be, and he brought through players like Mark Pugh, who was signed from Hereford United for peanuts. Harry Arter, I know that he hasn't done a very good job at Forest and Fulham, but again, another player who he signed for peanuts, and that is really what Gary O'Neill needs to do, but on a bigger scale, because Wolves bigger club than ourselves. I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, Gary O'Neill can really make a name for himself by bringing through this team. And he's done a fantastic job with a squad which everybody said, Dave, at the start of the season, you was going to go down. And to be honest, after Lopetegui was sacked, well, left the
Well,
club.
Lopetegui left.
Yeah, of course he left,
Lopetegui
didn't he?
told the
Mm,
sporting director after the match against Celtic in Ireland that he was
mm,
leaving, and he did a great job in pulling us away from thinking. Wolves spent a lot of money in that January, and he was on a lot of money.
yeah.
And he looked at the squad and said, "Oh yeah, not good enough." But like, it's like, you ever watch Bullseye?
Yeah.
This is what you could have won. It's like, this is what you could have had. He could have been a hero here. Instead, Gary O'Neill's come in, English coach, young English coach, who I think's got a massive future in the game. And I
Yeah.
really think that he could be England manager one day, and why not? But he's still a very young coach. And I think the other thing, I think he learned a lot from Bournemouth when he was
Mm,
there, a lot from the situation that he did. I think he's learning a lot from what he's doing at Wolves, because you learn, don't you, from, oh, I tried that, did this, that didn't work, and stuff like that.
mhm,
He's growing still as a manager and as a coach. He's
yeah.
having to bring in his coaching team, and he's still got a long way to grow. And I think he's got a lot of room to grow as long as Wolves match what he's looking to do. He can really make a name for himself at Wolves. And then
Mhm,
at some point, he'll move on, but he'll leave us in a much better place than he found us. And then someone can pick the reins up and continue his work. Nuno did a great job when he was here with us, got us, to two seventh place. Pandemic, we were close to the Champions League when the pandemic hit,
yeah.
and then we've gone backwards ever since. So, like I say, Gary O'Neill's done a great job of brick by brick uniting
Mhm.
the fan base with the team and the love for the team again, and hopefully that comes across. Are you going to Molineux tomorrow?
I'm not. No, I'm not. Unfortunately.
Yeah, well, you'll probably be able to get it on, watch it somehow. I'm guessing,
Yes. Yes.
as
Yeah.
you do. But yeah, the atmosphere's been much better, and you know, okay, we've not won in six. I mean, interesting stats for the
Mhm.
game actually. That you've only had one win over us in seven meetings with us in the Premier, and that was Gary O'Neill's 1-0 victory over us
Yeah.
in February last year. But we're winless in six games in all competitions, and
Mhm.
we've not lost four successive home matches since February 2017. So if we lose to you, that would be four in a row.
Yeah.
And we have not scored. Can you believe we're the only team not to have scored a goal from outside the box in Europe's top 5 leagues, and we've had 134 attempts, and we haven't scored a goal from outside the box.
I
In
never knew that. I
Yeah,
never knew
we're the
that.
only team in the
Mm,
top 5 divisions of Europe that hasn't scored a goal from outside the box in the league. Tommy
mhm.
Doyle scored a goal against Brentford in the FA Cup from outside the box, but other than that, we ain't scored. We're due one, so let's hope one flies in tomorrow night.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But now you've said it, it probably will do, Dave. But
I keep
Dave,
saying it every week, it still don't happen.
it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here, and thank you so much for coming on to talk about Gary O'Neill. Before you go, tell everybody where they can find Always Wolves.
Yeah, so Always Wolves Fan TV on YouTube, Always Wolves on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. We're there wherever you look. We'll be doing a match vlog after the game. We'll be doing reactions. We've even got a watch along going with Chelsea. She's doing the watch along for us, so tune into that. Give her some love and support if you're a Bournemouth fan. And you know what? It's great, to see a team like Bournemouth that's, you know, historically was always League One, League Two, that have
Yeah,
worked your way up and established yourself in the Premier League. And I always think Bournemouth fans are you're proper fans. You're not glory hunters. You don't support your team because they win loads of trophies and stuff. And when you have a little bit of success, you really appreciate it more. And that's a bit like Wolves, really. You have the pain, and then you appreciate the good things. And I think it's great to see that you've had a great season, and you're going to be in the, we'll be having chats next year because you'll be back, still in the Premier League. I just want us to finish above you because we need the
yeah.
money more than you in the summer. Thanks very much.
Well, hopefully not, but hey, it'd be good if we can finish just slightly above you, and you're just
No,
behind us,
no,
but
no, 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 no. You don't need. We need that money to invest in the summer. You can have 12th place and we'll have 11th, and that's fair, isn't it? Come on.
mm, wow, we'll see, we'll see. I
We'll
don't think
we'll find
Antonio
out a lot
agrees.
more after tomorrow night's game. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, Dave. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and a pleasure as always. No doubt we'll catch up with you next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, all the best for the rest of the season. Obviously, not tomorrow night at Molineux, but I know there'll be quite a few Bournemouth fans that'll be travelling. And to be fair,
Yep,
that's a big commitment on a Wednesday night to come up from Bournemouth. So fair play to all the fans that are from Bournemouth that are travelling, and because obviously they'll be getting back really early hours in the morning on
yep,
Thursday as well. So it's a big commitment on a Wednesday night. But thanks ever so much for asking me on. I hope you guys that are watching this, have enjoyed it. It's certainly been a pleasure joining you, mate, and I look forward to joining you again sometime next season.
yep. Not a problem. You're always welcome on, Dave. Thanks so much, mate.
You're welcome. All the best.
And thank you everybody for joining us. Please remember hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell buttons below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries and All Departments. Please do also check out our show with Johnny Phillips. That was our preview show, and also do listen to my talk about Gary O'Neill. Wolves fans love him. Liverpool supposedly wanted him. As we found out, it's all a load of rubbish. And Bournemouth fans, well, we don't hate him, but some elements didn't really like him and would have driven him to his next club. Do let us know in the comments what you think. Also, do check out our other videos as well. We had Richie Neville from Five on. We've had Damon Minchella from Ocean Colour Scene. We've also had Gaz Whelan from The Happy Mondays. So do check all those videos out. But until the next one, up the cherries, and thank you for joining us.